Welcome, everyone, to a special pull list episode. This is not your normal pull list episode. We're only talking about three books specifically. That's why this is Neek the Pull List Podcast Special Pulls. On this episode, Josh and I are talking about three of our most anticipated books. One of them was a very, very special surprise. Did not expect it, but we're glad that it happened. So this episode, Josh, we finally get to talk about Black Panther *1 by Mr. Ta-Nehisi Coates.
God.
We've been waiting on this book for a long time.
My man.
Long time. This book has been my most anticipated book since they announced it. And
one of our most anticipated ever. I think you said it was your most anticipated ever read.
Ever so far. Yeah. So since I've been into comic books, this has been my most anticipated comic book to date.
It's top 5 for me. I mean, I followed Ta-Nehisi Coates already. I followed him just as a writer, great social commentator in America and in world politics today. Read his books. When I heard he was doing Black Panther like that, just oh my God! Like, and it's important. His career started out as a poet, so which comes great onto the page naturally.
And so we'll jump into the details later. But oh my God! So I have a lot to say about his writing style and how it just worked so well. But we'll talk about Black Panther *1, Poe Dameron *1, which I like to refer to as BB-8 and his human companion.
It's the origin tale of BB-8.
And Justice League, the Darkseid Wars Special #1. We said it on this show that they could not do it in 2 issues, and this proves why they could not.
They cut corners.
They cut corners. They could not finish Justice League in 2 books, and we knew it. So this is the book that we're going to talk about because it answers a lot of questions. It fills in a lot of gaps, which made me really happy and enjoy the Darkseid War so much more. But anyway, back to Black Panther. So Ta-Nehisi Coates and Brian Stelfreeze is the artist on this. They are my new favorite power couple.
After one issue.
The art is so good. It's simple, yet it's powerful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, he conveys so. Brian Stelfreeze has a way of taking the prose and transforming it into imagery that's so simplistic but tells such a complex story at the same time. It's very clear immediately. You can't talk about this book without Stelfreeze and Coates be in communion with one another, for lack of a better word. Ta-Nehisi Coates was saying in the weeks leading up to it, I think it was in the Wired article that came out, it was either Wired or New York Post, one of those, where he said that he wrote the first 12 issues of his run all the way through before they even started the art.
Right.
He gave them to Brian Stelfreeze and didn't really give him a whole lot of pointers on what he wanted. And Stelfreeze had a way of making the images come to life off the page. And that is just, they were meant to work on this book together.
Right.
It's so clear.
Stelfreeze, he added elements to the story with his concept art.
Yeah.
Coates said that he went back and changed things based off the art that he gave to him, which is great. I love that he was able to take that, I wouldn't even call it feedback, but those suggestions and weave them into his story.
I mean, he makes it very clear from the beginning. And if you read, there's a biography of him in the back here. There's a little bio on him, and not a Q&A, but it just kind of tells about his career and such. He makes it very clear in his interactions with fans on Twitter also that he's not a comic book writer. This is the first comic book he's ever written, and he said it's one of the most daunting tasks he's ever had.
Right.
Was to write this and make sure, he not only played homage to the character of Black Panther, but take this character that works so much better in ensemble books like Avengers. And even when he showed up in Heroes of Fire, he showed up in Luke Cage, took over for Daredevil.
He's been a teacher in Harlem. He's worked with the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, he works. This is a character that works so good in the team ups that we forget about his solo adventures. I know I do, and I actually went back and read a lot of them. The classic runs, they're great, but they don't really handle what he's doing in the big universe changing books. This is changing that.
Exactly.
Immediately from the beginning, it's changing that.
And the reason why I like this book so much is because it's not just a character book. It is the character and the world that he comes from. It's very much a Wakanda book as it is a Black Panther book.
Right.
I really appreciate.
Yeah, I was going to say that, there's really the title Black Panther is almost deceiving in a way.
Mm-hmm.
There's very much two co-leads in this. It's Black Panther and then Wakanda is the
Mm-hmm.
other. I mean, a country can be a co-character. In this case, Wakanda definitely is. We see what he's going through, and even though they don't explicitly say it, the events of the Secret Wars are weighing on his mind now. The events of the incursions. He's one of the only people who remembers both timelines. He knows what happened. We know he's out there with the Ultimates right now. These are going to start affecting one another very soon.
Right. So, I mean, Black Panther, I don't want to talk too much about it because I want you to experience it.
Right.
Although I just found out that the number one, the first print of the run is completely sold out. They are now already on the second print of this run.
In 2 days.
So I hate if you missed it, but you might be able to get it somewhere still. Some comic book shops might still have a few. But yeah, officially, it's the first print of this run is sold out, which is phenomenal. And I'm really excited. Just read this book. Coates has a writing style that is easy to follow, but you could tell that there's a lot of passion and research in this character. In his writing. It definitely shows.
There's so much love for the lore and the history of not just Black Panther, but of Wakandan society in this, and dealing with the changes that are obviously made to the country following Secret Wars #9.
Right.
That you look at this, and at the same time, I mean, you'll love it if you're a longtime fan of Black Panther, like Ray is, or if you're newer like I am in the last couple of years. But at the same time, this issue #1 is a perfect jumping on point for anyone looking to get into comics.
Yes.
If you want someone who doesn't necessarily have superpowers, who's very much a Batman almost, but he's a royal prince, obviously, and the king of Wakanda now, the king of the dead, you have to... I don't know. It's something you have to experience for yourself. Not everybody's going to like this book. It's very different from your traditional comic book in the way it's written. I would argue it is, at least. It feels almost more poetic in a way. It goes back very much to the roots of his writing.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if you know somebody who's looking to get into comics for the very first time, this is a great starter book along, like we said with Invincible Iron Man, this is now alongside that book as the #1 one I would recommend to get into Marvel Comics right now.
Right.
And also, or if you know somebody who wants not a street level hero, but wants someone that, martial arts, hand-to-hand combat, Black Panther is your guy right now. This is the comic to be reading.
And, and I'll share this with you. It's just that he said that the fighting in the book is very much in the book because it almost had to be. He wants to tell you a story. He wants to give you the history first.
Wakandan history, Wakandan politics are all coming into.
He wants to give you all that first. And this is very much a book where if you want to see a character deal with the world that he comes from and how he deals with that and how the universe deals with him being what he is, it's very good at that. And I guess kind of like my closing thoughts on this book before we move on to the next one is from Coates himself. In an interview he gave with NPR, said he wants this book to be for somebody today like Spider-Man was for him when he was reading comics as a young kid.
Yeah, I mean, that's the mic drop right there. I think this book very much will be in 20 or 30 years. We're going to hear about, there's going to be some writer out there. It might not even be in comic books. It might be in video games. It might be in movies. Who's going to say Black Panther #1 was such a huge impact on me. Reading Ta-Nehisi Coates' run on that is going to be huge. I mean, Jonathan Hickman's run on Avengers was huge for me. I can't imagine what it must be like for an actual author to sit down and read these stories for the first time and be like, oh my God, like this is going to alter the entire way that my life is going to go. We've heard that from so many people, like Neil Gaiman grew up reading, the works of Alan Moore, and Hickman and Sule have said, about a lot of the ones that they've read, the great Grant Morrison, Frank Miller, all of these. There's real potential here for this to be not just one of the finest books Marvel puts out of the year, but one of their finest of the decade.
Completely agree.
So definitely go pick it up. We don't want to get into the plot. We don't want to get into the characters. If you've read Black Panther before, or if you've followed T'Challa in the last 4 or 5 years, you're going to be really surprised at some of the events of the book. You're definitely going to see where they're starting to go with it. This is a Panther book, though, and a Wakanda book first and foremost. The fighting is very much secondary, and if it stays that way, this book's going to be much more successful.
Yes, and you're going to learn some stuff about Panther that is important to his history. So,
yeah.
Good. All right. Well, Josh, now I want you to tell me, it's Star Wars time.
Oh, it's always Star Wars time, right?
Always
It's been a big week for Star Wars.
It really has been. So tell me about Poe Dameron.
Poe Dameron. This comic came out of nowhere. It got announced maybe 2.5 months ago, at most, and it was completely different from what I was expecting. They didn't release any of the panels ahead of time, which is very uncharacteristic, especially for a Star Wars comic, to not tease it. And it deals with when they said it was how Poe became the Resistance's best pilot. I thought, oh, we're great. We're going to get to see his days in the Republic Navy. We're going to see how he came to meet BB-8, all this and that.
That's definitely what I expected, 100%.
What we got was different, and not in a bad way at all. No. What we got was I anticipated an arc like this, like around Christmas time this year. Right. I did not anticipate it this soon. I anticipated this to be like the second act or something. Instead, they just jump right into it. This very much it serves as a prequel to the events of The Force Awakens. Now, it's an ongoing series. It's not going to be like 4 or 5 issues. So he's going to be traversing the galaxy. We see some very familiar faces. If you've seen the movie, you'll recognize a bunch of faces instantaneously. Not just Princess Leia and BB-8. You'll recognize a bunch of other minor characters. Got me really stoked. I love the creatures. I love the minor characters of Star Wars. It's part of the allure, but it deals with a lot of the philosophy behind Star Wars as well, which is something I did not expect in this book. In a book about a fighter pilot. I expected this to be a lot of action. So there's not a ton of action in this book. I don't want to say it's like Panther because it's nothing like Panther, but it's like it in that regard that there's not a bunch of action here. He's not running around shooting ships out of the sky.
It's a bunch of story, and I appreciate that.
It's a lot of story, and Charles Soule, making his return back to Star Wars. He wrote last year's phenomenal Lando miniseries, which is probably still the best thing that they've put out since Marvel reacquired the license. It's arguably the best. It's definitely up there alongside Darth Vader as the best.
Okay. I really like that Darth Vader book, so yeah.
And Soule has this way with characters of taking someone that you've met before and completely reinventing them. With this, though, it doesn't feel like he reinvents Poe. He makes him more believable. You start to understand his motivations in the movies more, just like he did with Lando Calrissian. All of a sudden, you're understanding where that gambler, that smuggler and swindler came from. You're understanding where Poe's cockiness comes from. You're understanding where his kind-heartedness comes from in this book a lot. I'm really excited to see what they do with this character. I think they're going to do a lot of flashbacks as they progress forward, depending on how popular this series is. They've essentially said it's replacing Kanan.
Right.
They've said it without saying it, that it's going to replace that. So, who knows what's going to replace this next year. If we only get 12 issues out of it, we get basically a full year. I'd be happy with that. I don't want too much. But it's really nice to get to go back to that point in the timeline so soon.
Right, which I thought was a really smart move. Like, you have all this Star Wars hype, you use it. So I thought this was probably a good time, and so that way they can save.
Poe was the surprise character of the movie
for Poe, in the actual in between time.
Yeah, he's because the thing about Poe is he's very much the Han Solo of this new trio. If we can, I would characterize him personally as like the Han. Well, I guess technically the Princess Leia of the trilogy. He's the more diplomatic one.
This is the truth.
Finn is definitely Han Solo.
Definitely Han Solo.
But it was cool because you can do all this stuff without giving away plot points to Episode 8. There's a reason why we're not seeing stuff about Kylo Ren. There's a reason why we're not seeing Finn. Rey's would just be boring.
It would be very boring.
So I'm sure we'll see theirs the farther we get into the timeline, post Episode 8, after we get some of their revelations. Obviously, their backgrounds are going to play into this.
Yeah. So
the coolest part about this is that we really got to explore I don't know. I don't really know how to phrase this. We got to explore the backstory of a character that very much got pushed to the side in The Force Awakens, and I think this book kind of makes up for that. We understand why you understand why he's in the position he's in the movie. So definitely, if you're a Star Wars fan, if you liked The Force Awakens, if you just want to see more X-wing action, read Poe Dameron.
Well, I mean, and it also is. I really like that it's him. He is a really cool guy that's like, he's kind to everybody, and he has a mission, and he's trying to get it done. You know,
he's a bro.
He really is a bro. And I was reading this, I was like, oh my god, he is no wonder Finn loved him immediately, because he's the broest bro there is.
I just watched that before we recorded this. I watched it this afternoon while I was working, and the scene where they run to each other and start embracing in the resistance base. I'm like, you knew this guy for like 5 minutes before you got blown out in the sky, and y'all are bromance and like you've known each other for a decade. Like it was so believable though. And so now I'm reading every line of dialogue in Oscar Isaac's voice. It's such a treat. Like go watch the special features on The Force Awakens. And J.J. Abrams is like, yeah, Oscar Isaac came to me and begged me not to kill him because he was supposed to die in like the first 15 minutes. And that we decided not to, because he was like, dude, I've died like at the beginning of the movie 4 times in my career. I'm not dying that early in Star Wars. And so right after they revamped that, he went and told the press he was in episode 8.
Of course. I mean, that's one way to keep yourself in the universe. Yeah.
So a lot of fun. Definitely recommend this. If you're a fan of the Star Wars comics, or if you're just a fan of fun stories, it's definitely a more laid back story.
It really
even though
is.
You can feel some of the tension. You understand where it's going. If you're a fan of the expanded universe, this is going to be very important going forward in that whole universe. So
interesting. Yeah, I mean, and plus you get more BB-8, so who could argue with that?
This is true.
All right then. So I guess our final book on this special pull list episode is
special.
It's special with special pulls.
Rachel,
Martha. No. Anyway, Justice League: The Darkseid War special #1, because they couldn't fit all the story into Justice League 49.
I'm so glad we got this book. It answered so many questions, but it raised so many more.
It did. Because we have been saying it's like, we don't how they're gonna do this in 2 books. How are they gonna wrap this up peacefully anyway? There was just so much that needed to be covered, that for people who were just jumping into the Darkseid War at the Darkseid War needed to know. And we were those people. We needed to know this stuff. And,
Can confirm.
Can confirm on this show, special exclusive on Neek the Pool List podcast.
Special episode.
The Darkseid War Special 1 lets you know what you need to know about the Darkseid War. I really appreciated this book. I, for one, almost didn't get it until Josh was like, oh, there's a special. We need to read this. It's between 48 and 49. And I'm like, what? Between? Yeah, it's between 48 and 49 of the Darkseid War. And it answers a lot of questions about Grail, about what happened to Steve Trevor, because there was literally just a panel of that, and it was like done. And
it's like,
what? It's like, where did he go? What happened? And it also tells you about Power Ring, Jessica Cruz, and Cyborg. All really, really important parts of the Darkseid War. But this book fleshes out so much of the Grail story that I really appreciated. Like her plan.
It's like her whole history, essentially.
Yes, it's good. And like they tell you this in earlier books if you read them, but most people are just jumping into the Darkseid War. So
yeah,
you really wouldn't know. But it does tell you her whole history. And it's a good one. It's
amended, but it's there and it works.
But there is one thing that they do with the history of one character in particular that was a little strange to me, and that was with Steve Trevor. I'm not going to ruin it, but I think Josh knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's an interesting change, but I kind of have a feeling I know where it's going to go. Because there's an assumption that's made, because that's been the history that we've known for a very long time. But they change it in this issue. So
You just got New 52.
But definitely, this is if you're reading the Darkseid War or thinking about getting into the Darkseid War, you need to pick up the one shots first off, and Justice League. I think it starts with 46, and you need this. You need the Darkseid War special. You need this.
Yeah,
it's important.
This is going to be essential to understanding the end game of this, really, of Jeff Johns' entire run. Even though he's not the one who specifically wrote this, it's still very important to read. It's very evident that he had his hand in crafting this, and I mean, I really liked it. The very last panel of the book.
Yes.
I was sitting in the car dealership waiting for my car to be fixed when I was reading this. I threw the book up in the air and started punching the air. I was so excited.
I was actually shocked because I had no idea. It was like, there he is. Yes. It was like, thank you. It's about time, because we really didn't know how that was going to work based off what's happening in the current book.
And can I just say, I love Jessica Cruz.
I do too. I'm so glad that they're giving her own book in Rebirth.
I'm very excited for that. Definitely. So, spoilers, we know she's going to make it out now.
Sorry.
Thank God.
Well, I
don't think I can handle the heartbreak.
Not sorry, but they announced the whole
lineup.
Like this. Yes. We don't know how she gets out yet. So there's that. But I really appreciated this book, and I have a feeling there will be 3 issues of the Darkseid War special. There'll be this one. I have a feeling there'll be another one after 49, and there will be another one after 50.
The epilogue.
Yeah, I feel like there'll be 3 of these. So
sure, it's cheating, but who cares? This has been an amazing event. It's very really hard to follow,
right?
But this one shot, I think,
it helps you out a lot. Like
it helps it out a lot. It's really a newbie guide almost to help you understand everything. Yeah. It's the cliff notes of this event.
Basically, they basically tell you what happened to get to the point that we're at now, which is really nice of them, and I really appreciated it because it was done well.
That's very out of character for DC to do something that's reader friendly like this.
So it makes me hopeful for the future for sure.
This event and how good it's been is what Convergence should have been. I'll say that.
But it's okay. I'm glad that this is good because this is a lot of fun to read.
I too. This has clearly been in the works for several years now, for us to get to this point, and just I need issue 49 in my hands now. Those were my exact. As soon as I read it, I was like, "Right, stop what you're doing." I know it's Panther Day. I know it's Poe Day. I got excited for both of those. You need to read this now.
Yes, you did, and I was very glad that I did. I really enjoyed that book. If you listen to our show, we were both kind of meh on Darkseid War initially, besides the one shots. But once we got into it, it's a really fun read.
It's daunting. If you have not jumped in yet at this point, I would say wait for the collected edition.
Yeah, wait for the collected, or if you can, which it might be a little hard now, you need to find all the one shots and 46 through 50 when that's done.
It's a lot of reading. It's a very, very well crafted story, though. Jeff Johns has crafted an epic along with the other writers that have been brought in to help him with these one shots. And the last thing I really want to mention on this, the art is fantastic in this.
Yes, it is.
It's some of my favorite art that we've seen. Excuse me, since we started the show. It really is one of my favorite works of art. The panels are just so gorgeous. But this book really is essential for understanding so many of the characters and understanding Grail, especially if you're new to it, like we were. If you've not been following Jeff Johns' run, you need to pick up the one shot.
Yep, it's worth it. And with that, all 3 of these books, Black Panther #1, Poe Dameron #1, and this Justice League, the Darkseid War special #1, go get all of them. And don't forget, this has been a special episode. So you're like, why are they talking about the rest of the stuff they picked up, like Spider-Man and Power Rangers and all the other fun stuff? It's because that's for a different episode. This was a special episode just for these 3 books, because these were the 3 books that we were most excited about. And now you should be really excited about them. If not, I don't know what to tell you. Go buy them anyway.
Go sit in the corner and think about your life.
Think about what you've done. But anyway, look forward to the other episodes of Pull List coming out soon. I can't wait to actually do our big Rebirth episode because I have all 20 issues.
Oh my God, you're a madman.
Of Rebirth pre-ordered, all 20. I went through and the first time I had 19. I was like, 19, is that it? And my buddy was like, nope, there's one more. And I was like, God dang it, there's 20. So that episode will be massive. So look forward to that. But there's also a lot of books in between now and then. We still have Civil War 2 to talk about.
And Civil War itself.
Yes, and Civil War itself coming up soon. Oh, yes.
It's been a very busy couple of months for the Pull List podcast.
And that's okay. You guys keep listening. We really appreciate you. You know, if you ever have a comic, you're like, hey, you guys should check this out. We'll go pick it up. We might even be starting a book of the month type episode where we get a book and you get the same book, and then we all talk about it in a dialogue format. So, well, I guess you would have to have a dialogue to talk about it, but whatever, it's okay. So we appreciate you. Thank you for listening to this special Pull List episode, and we'll see you in the next one.